Okay, so in this video, I will attempt to answer yung mga questions ni Boy Abunda sa mga presidential. Tingnan natin kung ano ang magiging fairness ko sa mga kandidato na to kung tatakbo ako sa election. So, no, hindi man ako tatakbo sa election, bawal sa amin yun. Ewan ko kung baka payayagan tumakbo si Marcoleta, pero kung sakali gusto nila isa pang Marcoleta, andito lang ako. Gusto ko ng pera sa politika, maraming pwedeng kuhanin, so, ayun. Okay, so, sino sa mga kandidato na itong titingnan natin? We got BBM, 11 million views. Lenny, 6.2. Well, we got Pacquiao, 3.4. 3.5 kay Isko. Kay Lacson, 4.9. Wow. Okay, para konti lang yung cancer, dito tayo kay Pacquiao bumatay ng tanong. Then, ang plano dito is, I'm going to cut some entry sa list, entry for time, and let's try to po, when Boy Abunda asks a question, I will pause the video and I will answer. Okay? So, tara, hanapin na natin.
Tonight, Senator Manny Pacquiao. Senator Manny, magandang gabi. Welcome at maraming salamat for being here.
Magandang gabi po.
The environment.
Nanonood ngayon.
Let's start with the environment. Specifically,
Okay, environment. Tara, sagutin natin to.
Senator Manny, itong issue on mining, noong Abril 2021, si President Duterte, nilift niya yung 9-year moratorium on granting new mining permits through Executive Order 1.
Hold on, before we answer, tingnan natin kung may timestamp sa comment para ano. Okay, we got timestamp. This is a blessing. Okay, so let's try to do things our way para mabilisan tayong makatapos. Okay? Tara.
130 kasi may moratorium yan na walang mga bagong permiso ang pagmimina. Samantala, December 2021, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, DNR, ay nilift din nila yung ban ng open pit mining sa pamamagitan ng Department Administrative Order number 2021-40. Itong desisyon na ito ng DNR at saka ng Presidente ay pinuri ito ng mining industry. Samantala, binatikos ito ng mga human rights and environment defenders. Ito ang aking katanungan, Senator Manny. You are applying to become the next President of the Republic of the Philippines. Pag kayo po ay pinalad na manalo, itong mga desisyon ni Presidente at saka ng DNR, pagtitibayin niyo ho ba ito o ipapawalang bisa?
Okay, so basically there is a conflict of interest dito sa pagmimina. So one side is the president allowing mining, open pit mining. The other side are environmentalists doesn't want to allow it. So basically the question is, yun nga, kailangan ipagtitibay ko ba tong magiging pagmimina? And my answer is, the issue is, why don't we just get the sides of both people? I'm gonna hire experts from both sides, the ENR and the environmentalists. Let's hear their plea and let's hear their case. If there are any cases na may mali kay Presidente Duterte tungkol sa pagmimina, then we have to control it at an extent on the grounds that it will be beneficial for the both of us. Now, if this is proven to be hazardous, then I don't see why is there a reason to continue. Okay? The point of mining is delikado siya because there are mines that are poisonous. The environment is going to be harmed. So, yun nga, pipierce mo yung mountain, hukayin mo, which will destroy their foundation. So, if you are considering the nature of it, yeah, it's bad for nature, but you have to also consider the economic aspect ng pagmimina. it's not just about one side. We have to take both sides into equation, and how do we control it? In case there is one mining way that benefits to both sides, then why not use it as a solution? So if I'm president, I got to be honest, I have no idea on mining, on the environment, but if I would were to decide what is going to be the case, then I'll just hire both sides of the equation and let them come up with the proper solution. Now, how about the bill na that is still ongoing on legalizing mining? This has to be taken onto court. It has to be placed in a status quo or not. But if there is no reason to stop it, then why stop it? Okay?
Gusto ko lang pong i-explain talaga yan. I brought you the life buhay mundo. Ang created. Or dyan sa
Okay. Dahil ang sinasabi ng mga advocates ng laban sa pagmimina ay ito'y nakakasira nga ng natural habitat. Kahit daw may reforestation program, ay hindi mo naman na ibabalik yung talagang forma na iyong sinira.
Problem is, if you are legalizing mining, you have to be up to date with the mining equipment. So that has to be into consideration, the technology. But yes, reforestation is an option. But let's gotta be honest, it's not the strongest suit here. Ang kadalasan yun nangyayari in real life, magmina, iiwanan na lang. So we have to strengthen the awareness of that. We have to be strict if we are going to do reforestation or doing rehabilitation on our on our mining sites. And there should be control over the miners. There should be legal miners. It's the same as logging. So there was an issue back then, decades ago, about illegal logging. Maybe that would be reconsidered if we are going to be exploring mining. Okay, let's go with next question.
COVID-19. Let's talk about the pandemic. Sa kasalukuyan, Senator Manny, dalawang bagay ang alam natin. Una, pinadapa tayo ng pandemyang ito. Mahigit 3 million cases sa bansa, sabi ng DOH. Mahigit 50,000 deaths sa Pilipinas. Sabi naman ng Johns Hopkins COVID-19 dashboard, more than 300 million cases around the world at mahigit ng 5 million deaths globally. Maraming mga Pilipino ang nawalan ng trabaho po, kabuhayan, mga mahal sa buhay. Marami ang nasirang relasyon, mga plano, mga pangarap. Yun po ang una. Alam natin na napaka-vicious ng virus. Pangalawa, alam din natin na ang virus na ito ay napaka-unpredictable. 2 taon na natin itong nilalabanan at maraming variants na ang ating naririnig. May mga alpha, beta, gamma, delta, delta plus, ngayon yung Omicron. The virus, according to experts, acquires genetic changes. Nag-mutate ito. Kung kailan, paano, ano na naman ang susunod na pangalan, hindi natin alam. It is both vicious and unpredictable. Ito po ang katanungan, Senator Manny. Given the unpredictability and the viciousness of this virus, at bilang presidente ng Pilipinas, kung ikay papalarin sa darating na eleksyon, ano ang programa mo para sa COVID?
Well, the pandemic has hit its strides dito sa country. And I think we have to start with the reforming of the Department of Health. And if that is the case. We see some incompetencies sa pamumuno ni Health Secretary Duque. I think it is time to relieve him of this position. No offense. And in terms of response on the COVID situation, I would rather have it being proactive. We need to step up in the plate in terms of responding through this virus. Ang mga naging kaso natin dito sa Pilipinas, hinahayaan lang natin. Magbubukas tayo, yes, ng ekonomiya, and then pag may natagpuan na sakit, we're gonna do an increased alert level. Pag bumaba, magluluwang ulit tayo pag may tumaas. It's just an endless cycle. Now, if if it terms if it comes to new variants, we have to be proactive. We need to shut down our some of our borders where these new variants have come. Number two, vaccination. So I believe we have a slow output in terms of vaccination at nagtitiwala tayo sa mga loan or sa mga nagbibigay sa atin ng vaccine sa ibang bansa. So, let's just keep it at that because I doubt that we have enough research power in terms of exploring a new vaccine. So, if the research is out, we have to work with what we have, and what we need is an increased budget in the health department to carry out because this pandemic virus thing is a priority right now. That more than security, I believe it should be the number one priority. So the fund should be transferred, allocated to the health department. Of course, there should be transparency on the health from the health officials sa mga gagawin for the situation, and the response should also be transparent and in a proactive sense. We are reactive to this virus. Napaka-reactive tayo. Kung meron na dumating, dun lang tayo action. So, by that, we need to step up a bit. I mean, nung kasagsagan ng SARS, nung panahon ni Gloria, it was so proactive. Meningococcemia, panahon rin ni Gloria, she was so proactive. I often dig dirt, put some dirt in Gloria's eyes, pero we have to accept the fact that her response in SARS and meningococcemia back then was so good, it limited all the infections that had happened. So nung panahon ni Gloria, nagawa natin yun. Bakit ngayon hindi natin magawa? Now, for the existing variants, well, karamihan naman sa atin nagpabakuna na. Ang mga problema lang is the distribution of the vaccine. Like I said, more funds and more workforce to distribute the vaccine very efficiently and fast as soon as possible. And we have to model ourselves to other countries who have to deal with the virus. I mean, deal with living with the virus in place, with the fear of leaving the virus. Yes, we need to have our face mask on. Yes, we need to maintain social distancing. Yes, limited capacity. But if this pandemic never ends, then it is just an endless cycle of ups and downs. So we have to accordingly live in with the awareness of the virus is still in the country. And in order to live, we need more power on disseminating information about the the pandemic. You people need to be aware of that, and I believe at by that, if we model ourselves in trying to live with the virus intact, we could be seeing full capacities in arenas and gatherings in no time. But still, we are hampered by this, so we have to stick with the plan. Ayun, much more the funds we need to funds on the health department, reform the health sector, and of course incentivize further our doctors and nurses, our frontliners. They are the ones that are in thick and thin through the pandemic, so we have to acknowledge them on the efforts that they are doing. More than that, tingin ko we have to be confident on on the virus. I mean on the vaccine. It helps us protect with the virus, and I've got the virus back then as asymptomatic. I mean in my time, so I never felt anything because I am vaccinated. So Let's just give it that. Disseminate more information about the pandemic, disseminate more information about the vaccine, convince people to get the vaccine, free vaccines, subsidize the health sector, reform the health sector, proactiveness in blocking new variants from entering the country, stricter implementation of quarantine rules from those who enter our Philippine area of responsibility. Just like that. It was a simple in the Arroyo era. I don't understand why we cannot transition it here on this current administration. But if I were that, if I was the president, I would implement the same model as it was in the Arroyo administration. And by that time, we are going to be fully vaccinated. Most of the populations are going to be fully vaccinated. We are going to be confident of a full capacity in all gatherings and whatnot.
Pero ang pag-usapan natin, Senator Manny, ay joblessness, yung kawalan ng trabaho, at gutom. Tuwing eleksyon, saksi ang sambayanan sa mga slogan ng mga kumakandidato.
Tama po yan.
Na lalo na sa pagka-presidente, alalahanin lamang natin. President Gloria, pagkain sa bawat hapagkainan. President Erap, era para sa mahirap. President Aquino, kung walang corrupt, walang mahirap. Ika nga, starring ang mahirap pag eleksyon. According to Philippine Statistics Authority, PSA, ang mga walang trabaho, para lamang maalala natin, Senador, October of 2001, 3.27 million. October 2010, 2.79 million. October 2016, 2 million. October ng 2021, 3.5 million. Ayon naman sa SWS, Social Weather Station, kaya ang ibig sabihin ho nito ay perception. Ang mga kababayan nating nagugutom in percentages taken into consideration population fluctuation po. Third quarter ng 2001, 9.3%. Third quarter of 2010, 15.9% ang nagugutom. Third quarter of 2016, 10.6%. September ng 2021, 10% or around 2.5 million Filipinos ang nagugutom. Ang ating katanungan, bilang nangangarap at nag-a-apply bilang kandidato, bilang presidente ng Pilipinas. Sa kasalukuyan, sabi ng PSA, 3.5 milyong Pilipino na walang trabaho. 2.5 milyong Pilipino naman ang nagugutom. As President of the Republic of the Philippines, with urgent problems of joblessness and hunger, Senador Manny, ano po ang inyong gagawin?
Poverty has always been an issue in this country. So, laging tama nga, laging bida yung mahihirap pagkampanya. Hindi nagiging bida ang mga mayayaman kasi mahihirap yung kinokontrol. Now, what I don't want is to babysit the poor. What I do want is for the poor to get jobs or equal opportunities. And what I want is mas mataas sa pasahod. I mean, if we look at the statistics sa mga sahod sa ibang bansa kumpara sa sahod dito, ang baba ng sahod ng teacher, ang baba ng sahod ng nurses, and we think that there are industries that are not employed very much kasi quote unquote walang pera. Journalists, medyo mababa sahod, and like that. Poverty doesn't come. Helping the poor is not the government's job. I think the government's job is to aid the poor. Is not aid. Okay, let me rephrase that. Babysitting the poor is not our job. It is our job just to aid the poor. Okay, yung mga mahihirap. And the aids that we can give is not directly to the poor itself, but to the industry that can be of reach to the poor. I am not going to be the one that will provide a solution to the countrymen who are very poor. What I will do is empower our working industry to provide the industry with ample recommendations to urge the workforce to work harder, and thus they can be incentivized harder. Now, that's one thing. Number two, mapagmimigay ng pagkain, free food. I think that should be reserved to emergency cases, not everyday cases. Di na matututo magtrabaho ang mga Pilipino pag bigay ka na ng bigay sa kanila. Dapat they have to learn. And one thing is we need to research on growing industries. The streaming industry, I am baffled by how many Filipinos know about Twitch than Facebook gaming. We need to explore and strengthen the field that which most of this generation are good at. So most of this generation are good at games. So why not strengthen the gaming industry in the Philippines? We need to. How many of our universities are offering gaming courses, gaming development courses? None. We need to open our country to game developers. So we only have Ubisoft. I think we need to open it more, like Riot, who has a diversified Filipino community. And I think that would be a much better place for some Filipinos to learn and to earn money, because this generation now, to be honest, in gaming centric masyado. At ang nangyayari dito, yung mga gustong mag-developer, mangingibang bansa kasi doon kikita, doon papadala yung pera sa dito. It's all about the workforce to solve poverty. Now, yung mga pagkain na yan, syempre taasan na yung sweldo, so I will be an advocate for a higher salary count. And I will also be pushing for one, opting out PhilHealth in terms of sa mga trabador natin, so they can have more to earn on their part. Number two, the minimum contribution, I will lower the minimum contribution to SSS and GSIS. I think yung mga ganyang minimum contribution is what is taking away from the salary of basic Filipino to Filipinos to get to their family, to put table on their families. Number three, how about the marginalized poor sector, yung mga squatter? Well, I think that should be decimated to the local government unit. I like what Isko Moreno is doing, but it's more on babysitting the poor than industrializing the poor. So I want I want some of those area to be converted into a foundation. Tulad ng ginawa ng Iglesia ni Cristo sa Laur, Nueva Ecija, isang community naging business-centric masyado. So, why don't we just do that? Home economics in a sector, in the marginalized poor sector, what the local government can do is, itong sector na to, ang daming pwedeng gawin. They can do automotive, tailoring, like that. And, yeah, just, they can utilize a whole community to be a business community. And I think that most of the, and if with proper handling by the local government, I think the community would thrive on those accounts. And those are simple things that can be done to put people into the working shoes. Ika nga. Ang problema kasi sa poverty is not a lot of people are excited to get jobs. So, yun. So, if you don't get jobs, why don't you make one? Transform marginalized sectors, squatters, etc. into a full-blown community. Who will do that? The local government. It's their job. What is their way? Bahala na yung mayor nyo. But I will ensure the Department of Interior local government would supervise the progress of each cities, especially in the metro. And yes, poverty solution comes from you. We are just going to aid you, not babysit the poor. So kung sa amin magagaling pagkain, that would be just for emergency purposes, to the point that the industry is totally dead. Like kung na Yolanda ka, na Odette. So that is where the national government would aid the poor. But aiding the poor every day, babysitting them, giving them money, free houses, like you don't earn it, you don't work for it, that's a big no for me if I'm president. But I would let the mayors decide or the governors decide. So that would specifically put a huge task on the local government, and it's the people's job to elect the right person to do that. Because sa kanila rin manggagaling sino mag-resolve ng problema nila in the local government level. I am just here to observe and to supervise along with the DILG to make sure these are implemented. So the escalation is to me. Ayun. Voice of the poor. So that is one thing we can get out of the way. We can hold meetings with the marginalized sectors. I think the local government can hold meetings with the marginalized sectors because that's the thing. Pag election lang nagkakaroon ng mga ganyan, pero pag tapos na, wala na. No, I think I will enact an executive order to have a quarterly meeting with the community to address the problems. So, that's one thing. So, my solution, I will not aid the poor. I mean, I will aid the poor, but not babysit them. One, local government empowerment, marginalized sector into a business community, explore new industries such as streaming, gaming, etc. Mo and yeah, I think that with that we will have a business growth. And lastly, I don't know if may economics na topic dito sa Okay, I don't think we have an economics. So, we will discuss economic. I think Makati, Taguig as business districts should not be isolated there. We need to expand our business districts. That's why I am encouraging marginalized communities to be a business community, because from a community you will become a district if the money would thrive. So let us specialize on that. We need also to empower our provinces to provide them with business districts. That is the job of the governors. So that's that. Na sasabihin mo malayo. Well, you're a grown man. So you have the capability to migrate to provinces. And what else that I can think of is that if we decimate our business districts to multiple locations, let's say Balanga Bataan is now a business district. Let's say Lawag is now a business district. Let's say Bulacan is a business district, has a business district. Ciudad de Victoria is a business district. Then, if our industry is open from those provinces, we will ease the traffic in the Metro Manila kasi lahat congested into 2 or 3 hotspots. Pasig, Taguig, Makati. Lahat ng mga trabador doon pumupunta. So, nangyayari doon nata-traffic. So, if we decimate them accordingly, we will spread out the location of each workers into provinces. And that is how I want to fix traffic. And I think that will be good for economic growth. Now, sa mga napapansin ko sa mga probinsya, it's all green and no city. So, if you're the largest city ng province you had to have, it is a requirement that it should be promoted into a business district. And the agricultural district ng inyong probinsya is the ones that aren't, I'm not saying small, but the ones are small to medium size places in the province should retain to business district, but being one of the largest cities tulad ng Angeles, San Fernando, I think it is required that you need to step up, and I think that should be the case, that it should be industrialized. So now that we empower our businesses, we have decimated it into different places. We have created opportunities outside the metro. I think the economy would thrive and poverty will be resolved. So with that, I will also push for higher wage and lower the taxes. We also have the option to opt out on our beneficiaries, SSS, GSIS, Pag-ibig, and PhilHealth. We need an option to do that just so the salary won't be as splice. If I can't do an opt out, then let's just minimize them. Anyway, they are government institutions that have to be subsidized, and the funds will come from us. So, hindi sa taong bayan. I mean, sa taong bayan naman galing yung funds, but it is just right management of budget to ensure that the ecosystem is flowing.
Sa OFW, sa Filipino migrants. Noong September 2019, estimated number of OFWs ay 2.2 million according to Philippine Statistics Authority, PSA. 96.8 of that are overseas contract workers, may mga kontrata. Ang walang kontrata ay 3.2%. Samantala, ang mga remittances, na naipapadala dito sa atin ng OFWs, 28.9 billion US dollars noong 2018, 30.1 billion US dollars noong 2019, 29.9 billion US dollars noong 2020, at 25.9 billion noong dollars noong October 2021. Noong 2018, Senator Manny, remittances sent by OFWs accounted for 11% of the total GDP of the country. Sa kabilang dako naman ho, marami ang kanilang naipapadala na pera dito sa Pilipinas, pero may sinasabing social cost na dahil nga ito sa pagkakahiwa-hiwalay ng mga magulang at ng mga anak, dahil kadalasan ang nanay o ang tatay at ang nanay ay nasa abroad, ang mga anak ay naiiwanan dito. So ito yung tinatawag na social cost ng OFWs, ng migration. At ang sabi nila, ito ay unquantifiable because it contributes to the destruction of the Filipino family. Tanong, Senator Manny, pag ikaw ang presidente ng Pilipinas, how will you balance the economic contributions of the OFWs, itong napakalaking remittances, and the unquantifiable social cost of migration that contributes to the destruction of the Filipino family?
That is one interesting question. I don't know how to answer that. One side, you're benefiting your family in remittances. The other side, you are leaving your family to do so. Let's see what Manny has to answer.
Tutulungan po natin yan sila, Tito Boy, kasi Tito Boy na talagang kawawa po yan sila. Sila po ang mga bayani talaga itutuloy natin kasi malaking tulong nila sa ating bansa din. Nakakatulong din sila. And then, ayaw ko ang plano ko talaga, ayaw kong mahiwalay sila sa kanilang mga pamilya. Kasi diyan karamihan naghihiwalay, yung mag-abroad yung isang pamilya, tapos ang asawa mag-abroad, and then pagbalik, wala ka nang babalikan, may kakilala ng iba. So, yun po ang nangyayari doon. Pero pagdating po sa
I think mostly OFWs ang ginagawa is, I think the smartest OFW na nakilala ko is one engineer in Dubai. Ang plano nila ata is they get enough funds sa bansa na yon and then migrate the family to the country. That's it. That's my solution. Why not just let the OFW do such thing? Sila mag-ipon sa bansang pinagtatrabaho nila, get a green card, and then migrate the family from this country to there. I think that is one easy solution that I would personally look into. Now, our embassies need work on that, so OFWs can apply for a migration fund to bring the family of the OFW to the country that they are working in. And the embassy could work with the government of the respective country that the OFW is working in to get a citizen ID, and that would lead to a better life. I think, yes, in the case in the Philippines, living in another country is a better is a better solution, and I think broken families can be fixed if yun yung case. But that is for the higher end, engineers, doctors sa mga ibang bansa. What about caregivers na, well, those are going to be priority sectors. So what we're going to do with them is we will make sure that they will come home every holiday to fix the brokenness of their relationship with their family. Holidays, we will make sure their safety in the country that they are working in. I think we have to prioritize sa mga lower classes, domestic helpers, caregivers, yung mga ganun. And ensure that they have proper security. Like if you're in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and it's really strict in the government, I think the consul there should have more responsibility on the welfareness ng OFW dun. Another thing to note is OFWs can apply for free gadgets so they can access social media, and I think that would also be inclined on education rights. We're not going to force OFWs to come home because they are contracted to work, but we need to see the best solution is they can connect through social media and they can have internet that could be prioritized by the local government sector. That's how I see it. So two-way solution. If you can't afford or can't are not applicable for, or if your job is unable to do, yung mag-ipon ka dun sa bansa mo and then migrate your family to that country, then social media empowerment, internet empowerment is one solution that I can think of. Okay, next question. Took them long enough. Abortion.
So to our next issue, ito'y abortion. Pero specifically, rape-related abortion. Sabi ng pinsan, Philippine Safe Abortion Advocacy Network at Engender Rights Incorporated, isang Filipina woman, isang batang babae, ang ginagahasa every 75 minutes. About 1 in every 8 Filipino women who resorts to abortion is a rape survivor. 70 women induce abortion every hour. Complications from unsafe abortion is one of the 5 leading causes of maternal death and a leading cause of hospitalization in the Philippines. In 2012 alone, 610 Filipino women induced abortion and over 100,000 women were hospitalized and 1,000 women died dahil po sa unsafe abortion complications. Since there is no access to safe abortion in the country, Senator Manny, at least 3 women die every day from unsafe abortion complications. Ang aking katanungan, now that you're applying to be president of the country, sa iyong palagay po ba, is it time to enact a law on abortion that would allow pregnant rape victims the choice of legal and safe abortion?
Abortion is bad. Just let the baby be born and put it on adoption. I don't want abortion. It's a sin to God. Okay? Let's just keep it that. If you're raped, we can do something about sexual abuse. We can we can consult you to free child custody sessions, but the baby has to stay alive. Okay? I don't want to give you a choice on killing an innocent baby boy or girl. If you're not willing, you're not able to provide the necessities of the baby, then put it on adoption. And I think that is need to be empowered by there. We need to have adoption centers, more capacity for them. Kasi yun lang maiisip ko. Okay? I am not going to dive down explore my inner demons, and result to legalizing into killing an unborn baby. That is just wrong. Call me standard if you want, but no, I disapprove abortion. It is against my faith, and of course, still the governing rule is the laws of the divine, and the laws of the divine does not transcend the laws of man. Okay, let's just keep it at that. Next question.
Senator Manny, let's talk about drugs. Uumpisahan ko dito sa sinabi ni President Duterte sa isang talumpati sa Ozamis City, 2017. And I quote, sabi ni Presidente, I feel so bad about all of these things. Kasi nalaman ko, paano ko makontrol in 3 to 6 months ang mga generals na police nandiyan, tapos yung mga Bureau of Customs na inaasahan ko, PI, nasa droga, how will I succeed in nasa droga? Alam ko na nagkamali talaga ako. Now, magtanong kayo, ang Pilipinas, are we or are we not a narcotics country? Yes, we are. Sabi ko, tama yung silang mga kritiko ko. Sabi mo, noong nagpresidente ka, 3 to 6 months. Hindi ko alam. Pagpasok ko, Davao lang kasi ako. So, ang template ko, Davao. May droga. Pero sabi ko, maglaro ka dun. Patay ka talaga. Give me another 6 months. That self-imposed time of 3 to 6 months, well, I did not realize how severe and how serious the problem of drug menace in this republic until I became president. Katanungan, Senator Manny. You are applying to be the president of the country. How much do you know about illegal drugs in the Philippines? Gaano kalala ito? Are we or are we not a narco country? Depende sa iyong kaalaman tungkol sa problema ng illegal na droga. Ano ang programa mo laban dito?
Grabe talaga ang droga sa bansa natin. Itutuloy natin yung war on drugs in the right way.
I agree in war on drugs on the right way. I think yung kaso kasi ni Duterte medyo harsh. Pinapatay niya yung mga addict, but the big fish, pinapakuwalan. And I think that's bad. Also, self-imposed timeline sucks in this country. I firmly believe 6 years is not enough to solve this country. I am going to be frankly honest, kung mangangampanya ako, 6 years isn't enough, but I need the full support. That in that way, I will campaign as well for my running mate para may full support ako pagdating ng aking administrasyon. Now, in terms of the drug war, drugs are, I think we should legalize one of them. Cannabis, I will legalize them. If that is the case. If it's proven medically fine, then why prevent it? I will legalize cannabis any day of the week. 2. War on drugs, police force. Drugs isn't the problem that we are prioritizing first. I think we should prioritize it lesser than during the Duterte administration. That's why I said health is more of a priority. So, let's reset the budget of the National Police ngayon. That way, money wouldn't go into the heads of our generals. Mass clean up of our government officials. Because I firmly believe there are government officials supporting drugs. And that is very, very suspicious. I know it's hard. And I know the intelligence committee is kinda corrupted sometimes. But what I'm going to do is full reform on the police department, full reform on NBI, ensure everyone has been tested in drugs, but syndicate bosses don't use drugs, so that is also a problem. It's just that we need more intelligence reports on drugs. Pero ang problema kasi, pag yung intelligence report mo galing sa mismong source ng mga droga, edi pa ikot-ikot ka lang. That's why I said it. We need to reform the system in this so-called war on drugs. And let us not be that very, very harsh in sa mga extrajudicial killing. vigilantism. Ako ay isang superhero advocate pero not in a brutal way, not like the Punisher na napapatay ka lang without disclosure of the law. And also, when we're talking about crime, I think it's unfair na yung mga mahirap lang yung mga nakukulong. So, let's be stricter on that sense. So, yeah. I'm not gonna allow wheelchairs. If you're gonna be arrested, you're gonna be arrested. Ano ba ba? Ano bang sinabi Pacquiao dito?
Hindi natin pwedeng payagan lang, hayaan ang illegal na droga dito sa ating bansa. Kundi sugpuin natin yan. Kasi isa yan sa magiging makukurap ang mga tao, lalo-lalo yung mga sa gobyerno. Kailangan pigilan, tutuloy natin yan in the right way. Ibig sabihin, lahat may karapatan para idipinsahan ang sarili pagdating ng panahon. Hindi natin papayagan yan.
Sa iyong palagay, ang Pilipinas ba is a narco country, katulad ng sabi ni President Duterte?
Ang Pilipinas, masasabi kong, hindi pa natin masabing narco. Dahil
I think we're not a narco country. We're just pawns for the narco country. Okay?
ini-import ang droga yung dalawang malalaking transaksyon na nakalusot sa custom. I mean, ibig sabihin, hindi dito manufacture. Unless kung dito ginagawa, masasabi natin yon. Pero sa ngayon, mapigilan natin yan. Mapigilan natin yan at maiayos natin ang ating gobyerno.
Gaano ka lala ito dito sa Pilipinas?
Sobrang malala yan, droga na yan, cancer na yan. Ang tagal na ng problema yan dito. And I think we need to upload Duterte because he is the first president to have a platform against the drugs. It's just that his platform is a bit harsh. It was a bit bloody. So we're gonna continue the war on drugs, but with the rule of law. No more shoot to kill, nanlaban bullshit. We need to ensure that, and ensuring that we need to fund, and I think we need to, the funds that we are going to allot for the Philippine National Police is not just for intelligence but for body cams, for operations, for those certain purposes. If they are tampered, sibak ang police. So that's the thing. Intelligence, reform, body cams. I think that's my take on how to improve quality of life sa war on drugs. But all in all, it is a principle. It is a good principle. It was just implemented poorly and bloody.
Senator Manny,
Next
let's
question.
talk about Philippine debt, utang. I'd like you to listen, Senator Manny, to these data from the Bureau of the Treasury. Nang matapos ang termino ni President Erap, ang utang ng Pilipinas ay 2.6 trillion pesos. Pagkatapos ni President Arroyo, umakyat ito to 5.1 trillion pesos. Umabot naman sa 6.5 trillion pesos nang matapos ang termino ni President Aquino. As of end November 2021, ngayong Administrasyong Duterte, total Philippine debt is 11.93 trillion pesos. Madalas nating naririnig, hindi ka pa ipinapanganak o hindi pa ipinapanganak ang baby na ito, may utang na dahil sa laki ng utang ng Pilipinas. Ang aking katanungan, Senator Manny, kung ikaw ay papalaring manalo bilang presidente ng Pilipinas, paano mo babayaran ang utang na ito ng ating bayan?
Salamat, Boy, sa...
Well, certainly we can't pay 11.9 trillion in 6 years. That's what I'm gonna say. Let's see what Manny says.
Makapag-explain ako niyan. Yung utang na talaga ng Pilipinas, yan ang pinaka-concern. Kasi kung payaan natin ng mga utang tayo ng mga utang taon-taon, talagang sad-sad tayo, bagsak talaga tayo, wala tayong kinabukasan na maganda. Ang pinaka concern ng Pilipinas yung revenue income ng ating gobyerno. revenue income, kailangan palakasin natin ang revenue income natin. Una, supuin yung korupsyon. Pangalawa, tutok tayo na kailangan kung ito yung ginagastos, kailangan makaka-recover itong revenue income ng ating gobyerno. Pagdating ng panahon, tumaas na yung revenue income ng ating gobyerno.
Okay, his answer isn't clear. I cannot give a clear answer to that because how the fuck am I gonna pay 11.9 trillion in 6 years? What I can do is minimize that 11.9 trillion, but it's gonna be hard. Okay, most of our funds are going to politicians as pork barrel, yung mga ganun. And in my sense, in my case, instead of taxing yung mga workers that they got service tax, etc., I think we should start taxing the pork barrel so we can have revenue back from those bigger funds that are being distributed to the government officials. Okay, this would lessen corruption and we will have enough revenue to make a dent on lessening our debts sa World Bank. But I assure you, 6 years isn't enough to fix the World Bank debts. Pataas ka ng pataas kada administrasyon eh. So, and we're in a pandemic, so that's impossible. What I can do is make a dent on it, but I don't see if I can provide a platform that could be very certain to solve it. Hindi ko siya mababayaran kagad. We need this is to be done over time. And I think it's time to tax the pork barrel so we can have revenue and that will be used to pay our debts. Number 2, since we've taxed the pork barrel, less people are gonna be corrupted. Kasi malalaman natin ilan yung napunta sa gobyerno pabalik, okay? Stocks. Now, yun na yung allotted budget nila, and politicians have no more room to pocket the money. Kasi the byproduct of that is poor local government institutions. Yung sakop mo, walang improvement kasi binusan mo na nga yung natitira pa sa'yo after namin buwisin yung pork barrel. That's it. And that would solve na political dynasties kasi hindi na sila pabalik-balik to run for position. Now, that is not going to solve. I've stated it before that it's not going to solve the World Bank problems because that is freaking impossible to do it in 6 years. I am sorry, but that's what I can say. Okay, West Philippine Sea. Oh boy, this one's very good.
The West Philippine Sea. Para klaro lamang, pag pinag-uusapan po ang West Philippine Sea, pinag-uusapan natin ang Scarborough Shoal o Bajo de Masinloc and the Kalayaan Island Group. Ito yung ating kiniklaim. Bahagi po ito ng Spratly Islands. Inaangkin po ito ng China. Sa Subi, ang tawag natin Zamora Reef at sa Mischief, Panganiban Reef. At iba pa, nagtayo na dito ang China ng mga hangars, underground storage, missile shelters, radar arrays, and other facilities. Noong July 12, 2016, naglabas ng desisyon ang Permanent Court of Arbitration, PCA, pabor sa Pilipinas sa issue sa West Philippine Sea. Atin ang West Philippine Sea. Pero patuloy pa rin itong inaangkin ng China. Tuloy pa din tayo sa pagfa-file ng mga diplomatic protests. As of December 2021, we have filed 241 diplomatic protests. Sinasagot naman ho tayo ng China. Nakaka-152 responses na po sila. Ang aking tanong, as President of the Philippines, Senator Manny, you are also the chief architect of foreign policy. If all diplomatic efforts fail, bilang presidente, sa iyong pananaw ba, the Philippines is strong enough and prepared to fight a defensive war against China to protect our territorial sovereignty?
What, are you kidding me? Have you played Command and Conquer Generals? Malakas ang China. They got dragon tanks. They got nukes. I, what else do they have? They got maganda yung dragon tank ng ano eh. But yeah, we are not prepared on that. China has the armed force, a good armed force. The Red Guards are a good armed force. So, what I suggest is to have a treaty on the West Philippine Sea to make it stand to have an agreement between both sides, China, Philippines treaty. And this has to be under the vision of the United Nations. Is China part of the United Nations? I don't know. We can Google. Is China part of the United Nations? Yes, it is a part of the UN. So it has to be supervised by the United Nations to have a treaty on the West Philippine Sea. Yes, we have an arbitrary ruling, but we need to have a treaty. That treaty states that if China doesn't recognize the treaty, they should be sanctioned by the United Nations, because clearly we can't go head to head with China, but I'm sure the UN, United Nations, can. And China has to answer to the United Nations why they can't answer to a treaty between both by the parties of the Philippines and China. Two, if China has to cease operations on the West Philippine Sea. That would be part of the treaty. Granted, that would be part of the treaty. So it is all Philippines in this treaty. May nakinabang ba na bansa on equally on a treaty? I guess not. Treaty of Paris, sino nakinabang? Amerika. Nakinabang ba tayo? Hindi. Sinakop tayo. That's it. There should be a treaty between Philippines and China that China should recognize the arbitrary ruling, and United Nations should is accountable. So if China doesn't want to answer, to follow, then International Criminal Court. Kasi lumalabag na sa batas. And that would prevent war. Now, if war happens, the UN should be ready to provide military aid to the Philippines. That is going to be part of the treaty. That will ensure protection, security sa shores natin, and to the one in the Spratlys. We're not going to go head to head with China, okay? We can, but it's guerrilla warfare. But I know who can. US is part of the UN. US is also our ally. And if US wants to intervene, they will be intervening in part of the UN. But there has to be a treaty that should be supervised by the United Nations. Yun yung take ko. Okay?
Unang-una, hindi tayo dapat magpapabuli. Kahit na maliit tayo, huwag tayo magpapabuli at ipaglaban natin yung atin. Pangalawa, pwede naman mag-uusap eh. Ang kabilang panig, pwede naman mag-uusap eh. Huwag tayong magpapabuli, huwag tayong magpapasindak. Kung ipaglaban yung atin. At pag-usapan natin in the right way. In the right way. Kasi kung pagdating sa physical, mas malaki sa atin ang China. Pero hindi tayo natatakot. Hindi tayo, kasi lagi natin kinakanta ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Kumakanta tayo ng ganun tapos hindi natin gagawin. Di ba? So, wala naman tayong no question na kaya natin ibuhis ang buhay natin. Kasi yung mga ninuno natin, yung mga ancestors natin na lumipan, importante pag-uusap.
Mga kapit bayan, dahil napakalaki ng China at napakaliit nga natin. Doon nga sa arbitration, hindi naman tinanggap ng China ang imbitasyon na siya ay makipagharap sa Pilipinas. Ang pananaw ng China ay infirm yung reklamo ng Pilipinas at saka hindi daw valid yung mga dahilan ng Pilipinas. Ang hinahanap ng China ay bilateral talks. yung pag-uusap. Kanina sinabi mo na mag-usap tayo in
That's what I said, bilateral talks. And after that, there should be a treaty signed by Xi Jinping and whoever and me, if I'm the president, that this is a sovereignty of the Philippines. China has agreed on it, but if China continues its operation on the island, the UN is ready to intervene.
the right way. Ano yun? Paano yun?
Dialogue. Ang problema kasi hindi na-resolve yan sa isang dialogue o dalawang dialogue lang. Sa ganitong usapin, maraming dialogue, at least minimum 10 o 8.
Pero seryosohin ba tayo ng China? Ang laki-laki nila.
Ay, hindi.
Ang dami-dami nilang pera. Tapos ang liit-liit
Bakit
natin.
hindi seryoso yun? Pinaglalaban natin yung sa atin.
That's what I want the UN to supervise. Because, yun nga, may arbitrary ruling na, and if China doesn't take it seriously, UN has to step up. The Philippine government has to step up. Okay?
Seryoso yun tayo.
Go ahead.
Ang kailangan lang nila, marinig tayo.
It's not just China doesn't want to listen, but I think it's just that the current government, has a lacking in pushing China. Pag tayo ay naging annoying, like a boss, na tag ng tag sa kanyang trabaho, na gawin niya to, if we are that assertive, we will get the recognition from China. And maybe they'll sign the treaty and into an agreement regarding the arbitrary ruling. And they will acknowledge us. It's a small chance, but it's still a chance I'm willing to take. Kaysa naman girahin tayo or tayo magsimula or do a defensive war. Okay, presidential qualification. Tara, tingnan natin.
Let's go to the 10th question. Pag-usapan natin ang presidential qualifications. You're applying to be President of the Republic of the Philippines. It's a complex job, napakalaking trabaho po.
Tama po yan.
Ilan lamang po ito sa mga ginagawa ng Presidente. He's the head of government, he's the chief architect of foreign policy, commander-in-chief ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. He signs budgets, manages finance, appoints justices, recommended by the Judicial Bar Council, confers the National Artist Award, manages disasters and pandemic, fights drug wars, head of her political party, has power over aliens, has power of eminent domain, practices general supervision over local governments, and pardons convicts, among others. Ganun po ka-komplikado ang trabaho ng isang presidente. Samantala, sa ating saligang batas, Article 7, Section 2 of the 1987 Constitution, ang qualifications para maging isang presidente ay ang mga sumusunod. Natural-born Filipino, registered voter, must be able to read and write, 40 years of age at the day of the election, and must have resided in the Philippines 10 years before the election is held. Ang katanungan po, ngayon po na kayo'y nag-a-apply bilang presidente ng Pilipinas, sa inyong palagay po ba, napapanahon na ba para amyendahan ang provision na ito ng saligang batas? Oo, hindi, at bakit?
It is time to amend that provision of the Constitution. As as you've said, ang kwalifikasyon ng isang Pilipino para tawagong presidente, read and write, legal resident, voter, 40 years old. Like, why? There's no college degree. There's no criminal record qualification. Kami mga maliliit, kami mga manggagawa, kailangan pang clear yung name namin para lang makapag-apply sa trabaho. Pas yung presidente, hindi. And as you said, boy, being a president is having a complex duty. So, if you're uneducated, how can you perform the complex duty in the first place? I am doing a complex data migration sa project ko. And I am educated. I am an engineering graduate. at ako'y hirap na rin. Ah, tapos sasabihin mo just a 40-year-old, basic 40-year-old, assuming na wala siya pinag-aralan, pwedeng tumakbo as president? You're gonna be shitting me. Of course, it's time to amend it. You mean you're telling me a 40-year-old who is still a criminal, who has killed lots of people, has a pending case on a random court, can be a candidate to run as president and be able to do complex duties? That is very, very wrong. That's why we have corrupt officials in the first place, because corrupt officials are still allowed to run as presidents. They have criminal records. And what happened to the old times, 1930s, when there were senators, when senators were engineers, doctors, different fields of profession, running for the Senate, running as president. What happened to that? Now we have artists. We have former dictator sons who has suspicious college degrees and like that. The only decent job to be president right now is being a lawyer. My God. Shit. Let's just get this one thing right. At least we have some decent presidentiables, but we got a man who did massacres. I'm looking at you. Kilala nyo na yun. We got, well, we got tax evaders. Okay? We got president whose former job is stripping nude. Okay, and you, Mr. Pacquiao, you were punching people for a living. What's up with that? We need to qualify our presidentiables as professional graduates, like engineers, lawyers. When was the last time an engineer ran for president? We got a labor leader running for president. I doubt that he graduated on a tertiary degree like that. And my lord, 40, there are people in their 30s more qualified to run as president than those who are in their 40s. Let's get that out of the way. Let's make it younger. Okay? 30, minimum age to run as president. Let's see what Pacquiao says.
Talagang amindahan ang saligang batas natin dahil hindi naaayon doon sa bagong henerasyon ngayon, yung especially yung technology lang, high-tech na eh. Yung batas na ginawa natin, wala pa yung mga technology nung araw.
So, itong provision ng Constitution.
What the hell, Pacman? He's asking you about the presidential candidate qualifications provision in the Constitution, and you're talking about technology. Shit!
Sa iyong paniniwala ay dapat i-amend na.
Amindahan.
Oo. Dahil may mga nagsasabi naman na the wisdom, the spirit of this particular provision ay para mabigyan ang mas nakakaraming tao ng pagkakataon.
Ang maraming tao ng pagkakataon tumakbo. That's why we have nuisance candidate because of that qualification in their constitution. Kaya mayroon tayong mga nuisance candidates na tumatakbo dahil dyan. Not everyone should be given an opportunity to a role that is so complex.
Manilbihan at maging presidente ng Pilipinas. Your comment?
Yes, tama yan. Para may maraming mga
If you want to be president, you have to work hard for it. Kasi unfair sa mga nagtapos. If hindi ka nakapagtapos, tatakbo kang presidente. I'm sorry about FPJ, but shit. It's a complex duty. And he almost won. Again. Shit.
Pilipino na magagaling at devoted sa pagsiservisyo at gustong
Another thing that I want to amend is yung multi-party system. I think it's time to abolish it. And I'm more in favor of two-party system. Dati naman, okay naman yun. Nationalista saka Partido Nationalista saka Partido Liberal. Dalawa lang naman yun yung yung partido dati. Ba't ngayon dami na? Para lang may equal opportunity? No, because I think we also need to apply that for nationalista, and if we are going to implement two-party system, there should be one-on-one candidacy, and we should also be the one in a plebiscite to determine who will be the candidates sa mga ganun. So we will hold two elections. The people will vote who will vote for the standard bearer of one party, and we will also vote for the standard bearer of two parties, just like in the States. That is one of my amendments that I will do, and changing most of the requirements. No criminal record, professional graduate, able to read and write, 30 years old of age. If I am more stricter, I want one with a master's degree, and I want a preferred course. Engineering, lawyer. Engineering is a good course. Law is a good course. Medicine is a good course. And political science. Those four courses are allowed to be president of the Philippines. I don't want former policemen, because they have the mindset to get more power and get absolute power. I don't want that mindset. But if I have to be just general, sure, let's open it. Bachelor's degree minimum as a college graduate. No criminal record, no corruption record, or even if you didn't commit corruption but you have a case of corruption, current case ongoing, you are not allowed to run for president. Let's get that out of the way. What else? What else can we add? We can add 3 years of political. 3 years is the minimum term, right, for mayor, governors. 3 years of political experience, because you need to be experienced as a person running a place if you want a complex role like that. So let's factor in experience factor. Minimum 3 years of experience of public service is going to be required to run as president. Ito nga, sa trabaho ko nga, kailangan 8 taong experience. Hirap na nga ako, pas presidente, kahit walang experience, rekta takbo. Ano kaya yun?
Makatulong at maumulad ang ating bansa.
Sa ibang bayan kasi, Senator Manny, like sa Turkey, I think requires higher education. Sa Indonesia ay high school graduate. Sa France, isa sa mga requirements ay dapat may bank account. Sa Great Britain naman, hindi ka pwede. Meron. Doon naman sa Great Britain, parang ang isa sa mga hindi ka naman pwede maging Prime Minister na hindi ka MP, Member of Parliament. Sa Myanmar, dahil sa nangyari nga kay Aung San Suu Kyi, hindi ka pwede maging presidente kung asawa mo ay foreigner. So in other words, meron mga peculiarities ang batas na ito. So pagdating dito sa Pilipinas, dahil sabi nga ng dating Senador Miriam Defensor Santiago, ang police officer daw pag nag-a-apply ng trabaho, hinahanapan ng diploma. Ang kumakandidato bilang presidente ay hindi. Your comment?
Pwede naman siguro yan, amindahan ang bantas natin, isasali natin yan, either high school graduate or college graduate.
I'm against high school graduate on running as president. We should, in our situation, we should consider a more higher degree than a high school graduate. Okay? Now, I think I pleaded my case on qualifications. Let's go to personal issue-based question. Okay, I'm gonna skip personal issue-based question because I think this will be geared towards Pac-Man. So let's go with political fast talk.
Now, it's time for our political fast talk.
Okay.
We have 60 seconds to do it. Senator Manny, bakit hindi dapat iboto si Mayor Isko?
Pabida.
May corruption issue?
Bakit hindi dapat iboto si Senator Lacson?
Kurotong Baleleng.
Senator Lacson.
Lacson, hindi ko alam.
Bakit hindi dapat iboto si VP Lenny?
Hindi ko alam.
You don't know the answer. Bakit hindi dapat iboto si VP Lenny? She's a puppet.
Bakit hindi dapat iboto si Senator Marcos?
A lot of things. He isn't politically cleared to run.
May bahid ng korupsyon, may issue ng korupsyon. Alam mo naman, ang korupsyon sa ating bansa ay talagang yan ang dahilan bakit
I think that is one of my missing reasons. If you want to run for president, yun nga, NBI clearance. Yeah, no criminal record. NBI clearance yun, di ba? Okay.
naghihirap.
Bakit ikaw ang dapat naming iboto?
Well, if you want to vote for me, Mr. John Hart Velasco, I am a content creator here in YouTube. I am an engineer, licensed engineer. I am a simple man. I want to be an ordinary man doing extraordinary things to our country. And I believe that my platform is not about false promises, it's about sincerity. As I've said, di natin kaya to i-resolve it in 6 years, but I'm willing to do within my power as president to make a dent in those 6 years to improve the lifestyle ng Pilipinas. I'm sorry that I do not have any confidence on certain issues, but I can assure you that if I'm elected president, I will be sincere as your leader and I will be as transparent as possible.
Naranasan kong matulog sa kalye. Naranasan kong walang pagkain sa isang araw. At ramdam ko ang naramdaman ng sambayan ng Pilipino. At nakita ko ang problema ng ating bansa. Dahil sa nakita ko, kaya kong resolbahin.
Let's now go to our final question. Answerable in 60 seconds, wala rin akong follow-up.
Okay.
March 19, 2018, si President Duterte withdrew the Philippines from the Rome Statute. Noong nangyari yung withdrawal, nag-take effect ito March 17, 2019, the Philippines was no longer a member of the International Criminal Court. The withdrawal happened matapos anunsyo noong ICC Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda ang pagbubukas ng preliminary examination sa Pilipinas with respect to the alleged crimes against humanity na nagaganap sa bansa dahil sa war on drugs. The President has threatened to arrest the ICC Prosecutor if she conducts activities dito sa Pilipinas kasi sabi nga ay hindi na tayo miyembro ng ICC. And the ICC has no right to do any investigating. On November 2021, the Philippine government requested a deferral of the ICC's request for examination under the principle of complementarity, claiming that the country had begun yung ating sariling investigasyon. The current ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan, in a document dated November 18, said they will temporarily suspend its investigation into the Philippines as it assesses the scope and effect of the government's request for deferral that cited the investigations being done by the Department of Justice. Mga human rights advocacy groups are urging the ICC to proceed with the investigation to not further delay justice for the victims. Hypothetical naman ito, Senador Manny, halimbawa ikaw na ang presidente. Sumulat ang ICC prosecutor na si Karim Khan at nagre-request na siya at ang kanyang team na pumunta dito sa Pilipinas para simulan na ang investigation, ang preliminary investigation sa di umano'y mga krimen laban sa sangkatauhan na may kinalaman sa war on drugs ni President Duterte. Ano po ang inyong gagawin? Papayagan mo ba sila pumunta dito sa Pilipinas? Oo, hindi, at bakit?
Well, I've said sa sinabi ko as qualifications of the president, we have to be retroactive on that assessment and we are going to assume Duterte isn't politically cleared. So if he has no clearance as a politician, then yes, I am allowing investigation on on former President, soon to be former President Rodrigo Duterte if he has atrocities and if proven guilty, we will hand Duterte to International Criminal Court to face all of the charges that has been filed against him. I am not going to be obstructing justice if this is proven to be a true case. Now, if this is rigged, then that's a different story. We have to look at it in a certain point of view. If this criminal case against Mr. Duterte is rigged or not, if it's clearly proven na yun nga, hindi siya politically cleared, then I'm going to allow the investigation. Let's see what Bachman said.
Unang-una, papayagan natin, pero unang-una, gusto nating respetuhin din yung desisyon ng Pangulo kasi that's his prerogative as a executive, no, as a leader. At papayagan natin sila ng mag-investigate dito sa atin at basta hindi lang maabuso yung sovereignty natin. Mayroon tayong sovereignty na hindi maapakan yung ating mga kababayang mga Pilipino, no? Na maipaglaban natin yung madipinsahan natin ang ating mga kababayan. So walang problema, open sila na mag-investigate dito sa ating bansa.
Senator Manny, maraming salamat.
And I think that's it. Thank you for sticking with me through 1 hour and 20 minutes of me just trying to be the president of the Philippines. I don't know if I answered this correctly, if the answer suits you, but ayun, tapos na. Woo! This is quite a long video. Thank you for watching and sticking. If you stuck to the end, thank you. Like, subscribe. Thank you for watching and goodbye.